Ataraxia, consciousness, and the Stoic path to genuine tranquility. In an age of relentless noise, algorithmic anxiety, and the constant pressure to react, one of the most quietly radical ideas in the history of philosophy is also one of the least discussed. The ancient Greek concept of ataraxia, tranquility of the soul, freedom from inner turmoil, was not a peripheral idea in Stoic thought. It was the destination, the thing the entire practice was pointed toward, and the path to it was more demanding and more interesting than the word tranquility might initially suggest. The Stoics inherited the concept from earlier Greek philosophy. It appears in Democritus, in Pyrrho, and in the Epicurean tradition before the Stoics gave it their own distinctive shape. But it was within Stoicism that ataraxia became most precisely defined and most rigorously operationalized as a practice, rather than merely a goal. The fundamental insight was this: almost everything that disturbs inner peace is disturbed by our reaction to events, not by the events themselves. What happens outside us is, in the Stoic framework, indifferent. Not because it does not matter, but because it cannot touch what is most essentially ours, unless we give it permission to do so. That permission is granted through judgment, through the automatic interpretation the mind places on incoming experience. And judgment, unlike external circumstances, is genuinely within our control. Epictetus, who articulated this more precisely than anyone before or after, divided all of existence into two categories: what is up to us and what is not. What is up to us is narrow. Our own judgments, our own desires, our own responses, our own character. What is not up to us is almost everything else: the behavior of other people, the state of our health, our reputation, our wealth, the political situation, the weather, death. The entire Stoic practice of ataraxia consists, at its core, of learning to keep these two categories clearly separated. To stop investing emotional energy in the second category as though it were the first, and to direct that energy exclusively toward what is genuinely within reach. This is not the elimination of emotion. That misreading of Stoicism has produced the popular image of the Stoic as someone cold, unfeeling, indifferent to the texture of human experience. An image that the actual Stoic thinkers would have found both inaccurate and unappealing. Marcus Aurelius, who was arguably the most powerful person alive during his time, wrote in his private journals with evident feeling about grief, frustration, disappointment, and love. Epictetus describes with obvious warmth the appropriate care a person should take of those close to them. Seneca writes about friendship with a depth that is unmistakably emotional. What the Stoics were eliminating was not emotion, but the specific category of emotional reaction that they called passion in the ancient sense. The violent, overwhelming, judgment-distorting responses that arise when the mind treats external events as though they have the power to determine the quality of the inner life. The Stoic sage still feels, but feels in proportion, feels without being swept away, feels without losing the thread of who they are and what they are doing. Ataraxia was understood as something achieved through practice and training over time, not as a state that arrives through insight alone. The morning meditation, the preparation for difficulties the day might bring. The evening review, the honest assessment of where the day's reactions had been aligned with reason and where they had not been. The deliberate practice of negative visualization, the contemplation of what might be lost, to reduce the grip of attachment on what is currently present. These were not therapeutic exercises in the modern sense, but training of a specific cognitive and emotional capacity, the ability to encounter what happens without being determined by it. Marcus Aurelius returned to the same principles in his journals hundreds of times, not because he had forgotten them, but because the practice required repetition, because the training was never complete, because ataraxia was a direction rather than a destination finally reached. What mattered most in practical terms was working with one's reactions, learning to perceive events not as catastrophes, but as things that occur outside one's control. a promotion denied, a relationship ended, a plan collapsed, a reputation damaged. These things happen, and they are genuinely difficult. But the Stoic practice of Ataraxia does not deny the difficulty. It asks a different question about it. What in this situation is actually within my power, and what is not? And then it redirects energy exclusively toward the former. Not because the external loss does not matter, but because responding to it with clarity and with the full resources of one's character is more effective. In this way, inner silence is formed. Not the silence of someone who has stopped caring, but the silence of someone who has stopped being ruled. The actions remain. The engagement with the world remains. What changes is the chaos underneath. The emotional weather that, in most people, determines not just how they feel, but what they do, how they treat others, and whether their choices reflect their values or merely their current state. Ataraxia is the condition in which emotions no longer dictate what you do or how you do it. That is a different kind of quiet from the one the word suggests. It is not passive. It is perhaps the most active thing a human being can cultivate. Thank you for watching all the way through. I really appreciate you being here. Let me know what you think about the ideas in this video, and feel free to share your own perspective or advice in the comments. I genuinely like to read it. If you enjoyed this kind of content, please like the video and subscribe. My hope is to build not just a channel, but a community where people explore meaningful ideas, exchange thoughts, and grow together. See you in the next videos. Bye.